Check, 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 check. Very low. Thank you.
Sign language interpreter standing to the right of the podium. Please make sure that the ASL interpreter is in frame for the duration of the press conference. We're not just interpreting for the 3 to 4 million people in Georgia, we are interpreting for the 10 to 15 million deaf people in the United States of America. No problem.
Hello, you can hear me?
Beautiful.
Glasses and masks don't go together. What do they say about our weather here in Georgia? If you wait, 24 hours, it'll change. And we had snow flurries out of the house last night, and I see no one had car problems, so it's good to see y'all. Well, today's the 1st of December, and I wanted to give you a quick update on some of the multiple election items going on in our state. First, the special election runoffs are underway today. We've had no real issues so far. One touch screen had to be rebooted at the start of the morning in DeKalb County, but that's running fine now. There will be 2 separate election night reporting pages that will be up today. One for the congressional 5th District race and the other for the State Senate 39 Special Democrat primary and the Western District DA's race. So we look forward to a smooth election day today. On the recount, we are approaching 50 counties being completed so far. The largest still out is Fulton, and again, we're seeing issues there. I read their statement of the issue of why they are rescanning 300,000 plus ballots that they have already scanned for the recount, and they could not recover the data for that. They put out a statement that only told part of the story. It's somewhat typical for what we're seeing from Fulton County, both recently and really for the last 15 to 25 years. The real issue is a Fulton County employee made several compounding errors. The biggest was, instead of following the procedures that my office and the vendor laid out, Fulton County once again cut corners. The biggest one being he backed up the election project on the server itself instead of on an external backup. Because of that decision, they lost the ability to upload hundreds of thousands of scanned ballots. Processes and procedures exist for a reason. The reason is to take into account the unexpected. Then there are decisions that continue to be concerning. Fulton County knocked off work at 4:45 on Sunday and 5 o'clock yesterday, announced they will scan from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. today. As of an hour ago, Fulton County only had 8 of the 17 high-speed scanners going because of staffing shortages, as I understand it. They can still make it by our midnight Wednesday deadline, but they seem to want to make it a dramatic finish. And I think us in our office, and I think really the rest of the state, is getting a little tired of always having to wait on Fulton County and having to put up with their dysfunction. The rest of the counties continue to make good progress, and that's good news. For the next big election, January 5th, we will continue to safeguard our voters and the integrity of the election. I still firmly believe that it violates the United States Constitution to vote for anyone to vote in one election, in the general election, for a senator that will be seated in January, and then come to Georgia and vote for another senator that will also be seated in January. My office is exploring ways to stop that from happening. It may require an outside lawsuit, which we would support. We will continue to look for third-party groups and individuals trying to game our system. Some have said this is voter suppression. It isn't. Since the announcement of our investigation yesterday, we have had additional information coming in regarding the tactics from these groups, including the New Georgia Project, sending 5 voter registrations to the same dead person, and sending applications to ineligible voters. If these third-party groups are going to get involved in our elections, they need to do it responsibly. My office is focused on voter protection. Every illegal vote will dilute the illegal votes of Georgia citizens that follow the law and are simply expressing the vote they want to cast. Illegal voting is wrong, and it is a felony. Your vote matters. Elections matter. Thank you.
And good morning. It's a pretty simple, straightforward statement today, so I will take any questions to follow up with any details y'all might have. Justin. Having a hard time hearing you, I apologize.
I just want you to talk a little bit about the work Georgia has done in the past year or two to give us a more secure system. We wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing right now with the old machines, correct?
Correct. I mean, one of the main things the legislature wanted to do, along with Secretary Raffensperger and basically all the Republican leadership, was to have a paper-based system so that we can audit. If you saw the interview with Chris Krebs on 60 Minutes, that's one of the big things we saw in Georgia. Now 95% of all the elections in the United States have a paper backup trail. And with the hand audit, we were able to see that the machines did count exactly, essentially, what was there. So that's one of the biggest pieces of security we have. We have also moved to a new environment for our voter registration system that's more secure. We have processes in place to keep the machines themselves secure. I mean, I could list a whole bunch of stuff out that we've done over the last year and a half to basically look at where the problems could have been previously, and working with Department of Homeland Security, with our vendors, with outside vendors on cybersecurity and physical security, the additional training we've done with the counties. As I said before, this is the most secure election we've seen in Georgia in our history, mainly because we're back to paper with a better, more accurate way to count these things. So the state has spent a lot of time, effort, and money, and invested a lot of time, effort, and money to make this a secure election, and to continually have it questioned in a way that is non-specific. As I said yesterday, we have a specific investigation going on in Gwinnett County because we had an elections board member say, I think that there are fewer envelopes than there are ballots. So that is a specific thing we can investigate. But a generalized, we don't like the outcome, therefore you should investigate, is not, what are you looking for? They'll start throwing, if you investigate one thing, as an example, we did the hand audit after people said the machines flipped the votes. And they said, okay, well now the goalposts continue to move. And at some point, you have to say, look, the election was the election, the outcome is the outcome. We will continue to investigate every single allegation that we get that's credible. We have 250 investigations open right now. But we anticipate that we have not seen widespread issues yet, but that's not to say there couldn't be, because with a small margin, But the problem is there hasn't been direct evidence of a conspiracy. There's no evidence of this some cabal over the top of this trying to switch the elections out. Are there individual illegal votes? Yes, there are in every single election every year. It has ever been thus in every election in the United States. It's a question of finding those illegal votes and hopefully weeding them out beforehand and doing the best you can on that. But you have human beings in 159 counties. And having the decentralized election system designed the way it is also a security measure because there's not one thing to hit. So, and does it provide for problems because you have a more diffused amount of people with different levels of sophistication? Yes. Somebody said yesterday we have 159 counties with 180 degrees of sophistication within all the counties. So you're always going to be at the whim and whimsy of a person in the most important spot who may not have the best training in some of these counties because they are under-resourced. And we know that. We work really hard to bring everybody up to the resource level they need to. And let's look at the hand audit we did that was amazingly well done. On the amount of ballots cast, they were off by 0.1053%, and on the margin, they were off by 0.0099%. That was executed not by the state, that was executed by the 159 counties, and they did a good job with that. So that's probably a long-winded answer to your question on what we've done, but it does kind of go over a lot of those things. Emil? I guess I'll see you at 5, right? Okay. LNA is going to be beginning in many of the counties. They've already begun. LNA is logic and accuracy testing because you have to take the election project that was on both the touch screens and on the polling place scanners and replace them with the new projects for January 5th. We are working right now. There was a Judge Batten order that in 3 counties, it was Cherokee, Cobb, and one other one that I can't remember right now, that they can't do that. That's obviously problematic. We're trying to work through those issues right now. But they have to begin the process of that because literally in 13 days, we begin early voting for those elections. So they have to get those projects in place and ready to go. What else? Yes, way in the back there, okay. And dead people, yeah. The biggest chance for most of these things we've seen is they're probably buying third-party data that would be, more commercially oriented, because the state stuff, counties use the death records and the vital records department at the county level, and those are maintained at the county level. The issue you have occasionally is if somebody dies out of state, sometimes that doesn't get there. But we also have cases we've seen so far where people haven't lived at a address since 1994, and the likelihood of that being in our system still is lower. But it goes back to the fact that list maintenance is not allowed during the 90-day window before an election. And given the fact that we are a mobile society and a higher tech society now, I think we need to take the possibility of the 90-day window being a little antiquated in terms of trying to keep your list maintenance up and proper. Because of the mobility we're discussing, we have higher tech tools that can allow for some of those things to be done, and people need to not believe everything they read, that everybody's going to be purged all the time. 11% of people move a year. They can move within the state, they can move outside the state, and that's standard. It's going to always be a churn. And that's why we see, even in our inactive voter list right now, I think it's close to 400,000 people who every indication is they are no longer there. But we cannot do anything extra to remove them at this point. We can't start the process of removing anybody else. That's why you'll see 130,000 people are on the NCOA list that haven't been removed from the rolls. They legally can't be removed from the rolls. So it'd be great to see our federal representatives take some steps to maybe get the laws a little more up to date than what we had from the 1993 National Voter Registration Act. Yeah. No, we could keep up with it. We're not legally allowed to. But what I'm saying is that they're using third-party data that it's obvious as people aren't there, and it opens up the ability to have potential fraud out of that. All we're saying is they need to act responsibly. They need to do their own vetting of what they're mailing and everything. Everything we do has to be done specifically under the law. So like when somebody registers, we produce the voter registration cards and they go out. And then if somebody gets a return mail, we produce the cards that go out to say, here's your first notification that you're going to put in active unless you respond to this. Everything we have is triggered by law. They are a third-party group. They have every right under the First Amendment to attempt to register people to vote and do this, but they still need to act responsibly because through many of their actions, they cause confusion, they create people who question the outcomes of elections, They just need to be more responsible. I mean, in 2014, they did similar things where they were registering people. We have people coming in right now who are being responsible. There's one group that's trying to register people who are just turning 18. We have another group, but we get a lot of duplicate registrations, because here's one thing, it's a little hidden secret. Essentially 90% of all eligible voters in this state, people who are eligible to register, are already registered. So the slice of people that can be registered now is very, very tiny. And it continues to grow with people turning 17 to 18. That's the biggest single factor that's going to add people to the rolls more than likely. One of the things we had done already is through the vendor, we provided 2 additional scanners, and then the state has what we call basically our pool scanners. We provided 4 more. So we went from 11 to 17 with the state's equipment. So we have done that for them. The vendor was on site on Sunday when some of this stuff began, and on Saturday saying, you can't use this particular server the way you intend to use it. They told them that immediately. And the issue that they specifically ran into was they have their central server, which is the main server, which can handle a voter database the size of Fulton's. They have an express server, which the state and the vendor gave them to do the LNA work for the December 1st and January 5th election. That was what it was intended to be used for. They decided, against the advice of the state and the vendor, to use that at the World Congress Center to help with the scanning of the ballots there. Now, they created the initial, this is where it gets, I hate to get into the weeds, but this is where it gets there. They created the initial election project on their central server, which is the main server. They then made a copy of that and brought it and put it on the Express server. So far, so good. You have 2 of the same versions. But then they started creating tabulators on the Express server. And the tabulators, when you create the cards to go into the ICC high-speed scanners. The moment you did that, the database is no longer matched, okay? So, the second they did that, they needed to make a backup copy on an external drive so they could go and put it back on the central server. And that's what the processes that the state and vendor have laid out for should have been followed. Instead, the employee made a backup on the same computer itself. It's kind of like when you do your taxes and you put it on the same computer as your backup, and then that computer dies, you lost everything. That's why you have to put it on an external drive. And they didn't do that. Because there's always a possibility a server can crash. And we have no idea what could have happened. There could have been a power surge. Somebody could have tripped over the power cord and plugged it back in. They could have powered it down incorrectly. Any of the number of ways we've all seen that can happen. The reason we have those processes and procedures in place, like Secretary Raffensperger referred to, is to deal with the unexpected, because when you have 159 counties, that kind of thing is going to happen to one of them. It does seem odd that always seems to happen to Fulton. But no, we've done everything we can to help them with some of those items. And I know they feel defensive, and I know they feel put upon sometimes, but they continually have these issues that come more from their internal election management decision making, like knocking off at 4:45 and 5 o'clock. At 4:45 on Sunday, they were almost done scanning the election day votes. They could have finished it off and, okay, we're going to start clean with the new votes tomorrow. They didn't. They just left at 4:45. Then they left at 5 o'clock yesterday, and now they're going to make their temps and employees be there from 7 to 11 p.m. You're going to ride people into the ground doing stuff that way. There's better ways to manage this stuff, and you look on the outside, and most people say, why the heck do you do it that way? It's just the way that it seems to be done. But we've given external, we've deployed people there, we've deployed extra equipment there, we've done everything we can to try to help out with those things. What else? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. Nothing with the Dominion machines. There's one issue in DeKalb, but I haven't seen it was resolved yet. They had a batch of ballots they need to get adjudicated, and they were hung up on one, and they were having a new engineer come in and put eyes on it. But the last I heard about that was about 7 o'clock yesterday, and I haven't heard about it this morning, but I'll follow up and find out where they're at with that. That's the only other thing that I've heard, and again, it was hung up with adjudication. They didn't know exactly why at the time, but they thought they did, but the engineer wanted to go put his eyes on it. I haven't gotten a follow-up on that yet. That's the only other thing. Yes, sir. I can't, because I don't know about it yet. I heard about it the first time when y'all heard about it just a minute ago. Cobb was completed with the physical scanning, and Gwinnett was planning on getting done before lunch today. I think they're down to like 40,000 ballots or so. Yes. It depends. We already have, I know of at least one county that's off by President Trump lost 2 votes, and former Vice President Biden lost 1 vote in I want to say it's Greene County, but I could be wrong. I think it's Greene County. So we know they're going to have to recertify it. And if any one county has to recertify, then the state has to recertify. So the plan is have anybody who does need to recertify to do that on Thursday and or Friday. And then the state will probably recertify by Friday afternoon with those changes. Yeah. Well, we thought about doing it today, but as the Secretary Raffensperger pointed out, we were going to have 2 election ENR reports up today. A third one might kind of add to the confusion, so we'll probably do it tomorrow, as we know all the counties will be getting in through that midnight hour, and hopefully y'all will have all those unofficial recount results in by that time. So it should be up tomorrow, and then have everything in. We want to avoid the confusion of running with the other 2 sets of ENRs we have going. Yes? Yeah. I get them every morning. Frankly, I did not do the math this morning before this one. I saw on the absentee ballot portal it was up by another 8,000 or 9,000. So that's the biggest bucket right now that's coming in. Otherwise, we have stuff on ENR, and there's about 40,000 on the what do you call it, on the dashboard to allow for that. One other little technical thing for everybody to realize, all the counties that had runoff elections could not take their new registrations and put them into the ENET system yet, because they have actual elections that are live right now. So after December 1, you will probably see a big swath of new registrations, especially Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton counties. They'll be coming online after the elections close out today, so probably starting tomorrow and Thursday. All right, anything else? All right, thank you all. Oh, sorry. Better what? No, because it's changing right now. It's that it's approaching 50, and I kind of just looked at that and said, where are we at? And they said, well, we're about 50. So that's where we're at right now. Thanks, guys.